Hi there, I'm Matt, one of the hosts of Mud and Blood, a podcast dark and grim, and I'm back for another visual review. This time of Alas for the Awful Sea, which is a Powered by the Apocalypse game by Haley Gordon and V. Hendro of Story Brewers Roleplaying. These ladies are based out of Australia, and this book is currently only available shipping from Australia if you want to get a hard copy. So bear that in mind when throughout this review. Before I go into this visual review, it's worth just stating, in case you're new to the channel or new to our podcast, how this format works. This is not a full review of this game. If you want a full review of our game, we've actually recorded one on our audio-only podcast, and you can find a link for that at mbcast.co/36. This is a visual review, and the reason we have these visual reviews for our games that we review is that one of the categories, one of the areas that we review our games on is visuals. And visuals obviously covers things like artwork and layout, that sort of thing. And it's very difficult for us to show our listeners the visuals when we're talking about them. So we've decided to do visual reviews to go along with all of our full audio reviews. So these are punchier, shorter, and literally just showing you the visuals of the games that we've reviewed. So again, if you want to go listen to our full review of this game, it's nearly 2 hours long. You can find it at mbcast.co/36. So that out of the way, that little caveat, let's talk about the book itself. And this is also going to be split into two sections. The first bit, I'm going to be showing you the book, talking about the format. The second bit, I'll put it on my desk and we'll look in more detail at the interiors. So layout, artwork, tables, that sort of thing. So the book itself is a softback book, as you can see here. It has a nice matte finish to it. And before I talk about too much more, I want to talk about how it's been printed, because if you turn to the last page, it has this little stamp that says Lightning Source UK. Now, the reason I mention that is that Lightning Source UK are the printers they are actually used for a number of print-on-demand services, but most notably in the role-playing scene, DriveThruRPG. I have a lot of print-on-demand titles from DriveThruRPG, and they all use the same printer. I'm mentioning that because it's a little bit odd that it's using that printer, but it's only available from an Australian store as a physical product. You can't, if you're in the US or you're in Europe like me, it gets shipped from Australia. So maybe sometime in future, considering it's using the same printer, we will see this appear on DriveThruRPG or another print-on-demand service like Lulu, and that might bring the shipping cost down a little bit. That out of the way, let's talk about the actual quality of the book. It has nice heavy set paper, so I suspect it's using one of the standard or premium color options, even though the interiors are entirely black and white. It has a perfect binding, which you would expect from a book of this size. Speaking of size, it runs to 233 pages to the last page of the index. 234 if you include the back end paper. And in terms of format, it is digest size, which is the kind of standard for most of the Powered by the Apocalypse games. Obviously, Cult Divinity Lost is an exception. If you want to know what that means in terms of actual dimensions, that is 6 inches across by 9 inches long, or in metric money, 15 centimeters across by 23 centimeters tall. I'm not sure there's not much else I can talk about here. There isn't a ribbon, obviously, it being a kind of standard softback book. The cover is... We'll show the cover in a bit, but it's basically... It looks like it's a wraparound image. It looks like the same image, but it's been split by a black spine here. I'll show that one when we get to the desk. And yeah, the matte finish is really lovely. Most of the print-on-demand books that I have from Lightning Source use a glossy cover. I'm not sure what the options really are with Lightning Source, but it's really nice to see a matte cover. It really makes it stand out. It feels really nice in the hand. So, with that out of the way, let's head over to my desk where we'll look at the interior of the book in more detail. One, two, three, four. Okay, so here we have the cover of the book, as I was talking about before. If I just open this up, you can see there that the illustration looks like it's from the same piece of illustration. The horizons don't quite match up so I suspect that they've just been split across the two covers, but it does feel seamless and it does look really, really good, as I'm sure you'll agree with me. The cover illustrator, which we'll just have a quick look at, is Kate Leiper. All the internal illustrations are done by Steph Lamb, and there are a number of other photographs and some other older like woodcut illustrations inside, which are used under a CC0, CC0 license. In terms of end papers, it has a single black end paper, double-sided end paper in the front cover. The back cover goes straight from the last page of the index to just a blank white page with the lightning source bit at the bottom. We have a title page. We have a credits page. Contents are here. It's just one page. It's split into, this book is split into 3 sections. The first one is about the rules, second one is about the GM, and the third one is the adventure, the sample adventure. Okay, so let's have a talk about layout first. This is as good a place as any. In fact, I'll go a few pages in so we can just see it on an actual page in the book. Layout-wise, it's a single column. This is pretty much standard for a lot of digest format books. We have a line across the bottom which has the chapter number and chapter title on the right and the book title on the left and page numbers in the corners. So when you're flicking through, it's pretty easy just by looking at the bottom right to find out which chapter you're looking for, page number, which is good. In terms of artwork, well, every section, I've creased these, has a single or a double page spread with a photograph. So here we have part 1. Part 2 is here. This is only a single page spread to fit in with the rest of the layout. And part 3 at the back is another double page spread. And these are all very nice photographs, I feel, that fit in with the tone of the game really well. In terms of illustrations, the first place I want to look is here because these are the standout ones. Every one of the roles in this game come with an illustration, and they are very, very, very good, as you can see. Missed one. I think, is it the last one? I think that was the last. One left. The stowaway. Yeah, so these are really good, good illustrations. I'm quite happy to see that they've each got a full page spread, or a double spread, each profession. Yeah, we've got a full-size image on the left and then the blurb about the profession on the right. Or roles, I should say, not professions. You've seen a little bit of illustration there when I went to the front of this chapter. Not every chapter has a corresponding page with an illustration on it, as you can see here, but most do. So here's another example illustration by Steph Lamb. And yeah, I'm just going to, basically these are dotted throughout the book, these illustrations. Most of them are on on new chapters, chapter pages. And the last one I'm going to show, there's a single double page spread in the adventure section, which I'll show now, which is an image of 2 men in a boat during a storm, and there's some sort of specter in the out at sea. Okay, so that's artwork. Yeah, it's dotted throughout, as you can see, these spreads, these full page illustrations, I should say. And I'm trying to find there's another photograph. And you just kind of see there's an illustration. There's like an old woodcut illustration, which is, yeah, one that they've sourced with a Creative Commons license. Anyway, so that's the artwork. The next thing I wanted to talk about, this is one of the last things I'm going to be talking about, is tables. Now, this being a Powered by the Apocalypse game, there are very, very few tables in this book. In fact, flicking through it just before I started recording, trying to find a table, this is the only one I could find, which is basically to do with equipment and wages. This is actually, money and purchasing chapter. And yeah, as you can see, it's a very simple table. It actually has no table borders whatsoever, although we have a gradient background fill on the first row, on the title row. So pretty standard. It's it's nicely spaced apart, so you can quite easily find the rows. There's not a huge amount of information on there, so it's legible, usable perfectly without any issues. And it looks really clean. Call-out boxes are another thing I should probably talk about. This being a Powered by the Apocalypse game, there are a lot of call-out boxes, especially with the moves. They tend to look like this. So this is a specific move. It's not one of the basic moves, but basically it just says, you know, it has the blurb about what the move entails, and then it has the rules associated with the move in a call-out box, which is this light gray background color. And it just basically tells you what the results are on a 2d6 roll. Pick this up very quickly. Yeah, it's not actually an image of anything. The bullets here are kind of a custom image, but it's just a design. It's not actually a picture. It looks like it might be a picture of like a fish or something, but it's not. It's just a nice looking design. And that's pretty much it. I guess the only other thing to talk around is the index at the back. We have just over a 2-page index, as you can see there, and the back is also. Let's see how many pages we've got here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 full pages of thanks, which are basically, I think, largely going to. I mean, I can see some names that are tied to, the same surnames as the people who've written this book, who have made this book. So I'm assuming it's all sorts of thanks. But also, this was a Kickstarter book, and I imagine there are a lot of Kickstarter backer names in here as well. It might be hard if you're a Kickstarter backer to find yours, so I'd suggest using the PDF because they're not in any kind of alphabetical order that I could see. And that's it for the book. So yeah, there's a little bit more to talk around. So the book itself, that's basically how it's presented. And the next thing to look at are the character sheets, or in this case, as it's a Powered by the Apocalypse game, the playbooks and the various GM sheets that you can get. Okay, so here we have the sheets. There are quite a few of them here. They're all stacked on top of each other, so I'll just go through them one at a time. The first ones to talk around are the playbooks. They're all single-sided, so you have effectively the roll on the left, the stats at the top, their special move that each of them have, equipment that they have, bonds, which are ties to other characters, and their harm clock, which is basically how much harm they've sustained. Name over on the left with some sample first name and surnames and some appearances. You choose one from each category. You can probably cross them off, I guess, is the idea. And a little description. So pretty straightforward. Everything's laid out really nicely. It doesn't feel cramped. And you've got everything you need for your character on the page. Okay, let's talk about the next one. This is another one, but this is an art-free one. So if in case ink is a problem with printing and you don't want the artwork version, they have a no art version as well. That said, the gray boxes are pretty ink heavy, so instead of just having maybe like a black box around it, you still have to print a fair bit of gray. Otherwise, it's exactly the same. I've picked a different one just to show you the difference. Still has a special move. You get a +2 in a specific stat, and otherwise it's exactly the same. Then we have, going alongside the rolls, you have descriptors. There are 6 to choose from, and you basically pick one and you cut it off. There are 2 to a page, and you just cut along the dotted line to keep one with you. So your character sheet would look like this, for example, the Captain Kinsman, and you have other special moves for your descriptor, and a little bit of information about them. Okay. The basic moves, as being a Powered by the Apocalypse game, all fit onto one page. There they all are. Pretty straightforward. And again, I think most people would probably print this on the back of a playbook. So you'd have your playbook on one side with the basic moves on the other. Although it has to be said, the PDFs aren't laid out like this, so you'd have to do some chopping and changing with a PDF program to make that work, I imagine. Or just feed them in manually through a printer. Anyway, we then have an advancement sheet, which is what you use to track advancement as you go through your various tales. So kind of milestone-linked advancement. And at for each one, you get to choose some options. This is just a way for you to capture for your character how they're advancing. I guess you could print this off on the back of a character sheet as well if you'd like. Might make a bit more sense actually than the basic moves. Then we have the GM sheets. The first one it's actually double-sided, but I've got them printed separately. On this one, it has in the gray box here, it talks about the GM's principles, the grim world of Alas, where you've got these bullet points to get you into the right headspace. how to make things worse, so complicating things, changing relationships, complicating the future. Some setting bullets to help you get into this setting, and folktale moves. So moves to do with certain types of folktale roles. Then on the other half, you have the first of the excellent GM worksheets, this one being for locations. It allows you to get a summary of 4 locations within your game. So literally just the name, the look of the location, where it is, and the problems or the opportunities for the PCs. So very high level. On the back of this one, or if you want to print on a separate page, you have the currents one. Again, these are 2 to a page, but they're identical. And currents are basically like conflicts that are going on in a location. So you name what the conflict's about. You have 4 NPCs here tied to the current. If for each one, you have a name, a look, who they're siding with, and what they want from the PCs. So instantly you're getting faction hooks there, you're getting motivations that affect the PCs, all very good stuff in a very concise, snappy format. And then we have the town sheets. I actually have printed this one double-sided, and I have actually got the sample one printed off here as well. Yeah, I'll just basically show you this one, the blank one. For each town, you can basically have an entire sheet, and what it has is you have a description of you have a name of the conflict at the top, a description of the conflict. This should tie to your currents page. The industry, you choose 1 to 3 of what kind of industry the town has to deal with. The geography of the town and the size of the town. You basically just cross them off or circle the ones that you want. Then for each of the 3 groups involved in that town, you have basically their desires, their power, what they want from the players, and the key NPCs within that group. So very, very quick and easy to fill this out. On the back, there's a bit more to do with the town. You have notes that you can put here, questions you could put here, custom moves if you want to come up with any custom moves for the town or within people in the town. And then all down the side here, you have important NPCs. And you could basically, I mean, looks like there's space for 4, but if you were to write, not write too much for each one, you could fit in quite a few NPCs on this page. And of course, you could put more into the notes section here. So all in all, those are very excellent GM resources. We rate them quite highly on our audio podcast. And there are quite a few sheets here to help you track your character in terms of advancement, in terms of the moves, and in terms of your playbook and your descriptor. So those are the sheets that you get with the game. Those are actually all freely available on their website. So if you want to download them and have a look at them in greater detail, again, there'll be a link in the description to their website where this is all available. But other than that, that is Alas for the Awful Sea, and this is the end of our visual review. Thanks for watching, and catch us next time for our next visual review.